Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now. Welcome to a late night writing sesh. I'm your host Kaufman, and tonight we're doing a little bit of a later writing sesh. Usually we plan it a little earlier in the day, but today, this weekend, I was giving myself grace after having such a great Freaky Friday. So welcome. We're going to hop into just an open free write. I'm going to throw up the music, same old, same old. I'm starting at the beginning of Scarecrow, and I need to read out the first chapter aloud, mostly to myself because I need to see how it sounds. But you're welcome to join in, listen in, feel free to drop thoughts if you'd like. I'm drinking my wrong side. Drinking my ghoul juice this evening. What are you drinking? Would love to hear. Drop a comment, and let's get some late night writing in. For those of you who are the night owls, this is right up your vibe. And if not, welcome to the fun. We'll get a co-working session in. So let's see what we see, and I'm just gonna hop into it. I was like, I didn't feel like dealing with timed writing sprints this evening. So, all right. So let's see. I'm going to open up here. Nope. We're going to go to the writing sprints. All right. So here's this. I am just working on the beginning of Scarecrow right now. So this past week, I've kind of been feeling like I got some really great feedback on the first chapter. For those of you who know, I'm in the second draft, about 65% of the way through. And I wanted to I'm taking just like a brief break for like a day or two because I got some great feedback on the first chapter and I wanted to make sure, I just wanted to revise it. I'm going to be showcasing it more frequently soon as I continue to start talking about Scarecrow and the book launch strategy. So I want to make sure the first chapter is as finely tuned as possible. It's now gone through a couple drafts and we're going to see how it sounds. So if you're watching this on the live stream or the replay, feel free to drop a comment, leave some feedback, and we'll see what we see. All right. So I got The Last Scarecrow. And I'm just going to read the first chapter aloud. I'll probably be making notes as I go. Like I said, I recommend authors do this just in general with reading their work aloud to themselves. I'm just including you in the process. Okay. And this is kind of like the song I included before the start of the text. Like this was my replacement for a prologue. And I think I'm pretty happy with doing this as an alternative because I didn't feel like the story needs a prologue, but it did need some world setting and some world building. So let's see what we see. All right. Song of the Last. For all the creatures in the dark, for all the animals near the mark, for all the beasts who feel the spark, in the lands of the last you see, essence will set you free. Ever the growth in the forests start, the splash and the breath ever war apart. Rekindle the sparks in the burn's black heart, the spirit traps epoch's decree. In the lands of the last all flee, nothing in shadow will be. Essence sets you free, lands of last. Interesting. So when I think it's been a second since I've looked at this, I like the beginning. I like the opening prose. I think this one's going to need some slight tweaks. I'm not going to deal with that right now. And then this one, I was trying something different. I think I'm still going to want this to rhyme. We'll come back to it though. I'm not too worried about this song prologue right now. All right, book one. Chapter 1, Field of the Last. Death begets life, Scarecrow. For this you'll bear nothingness. Wake up. Caw! Scarecrow's eyes opened as a straw hat landed upon his head of willow hair. A sunrise of amber red and orange gold blinded him in greeting. As eyes watered, his raised arm attempted to offer some shade of protection. Rays of light snuck through the frayed holes of his worn sleeve, while a stale smell of dry stuffing assaulted his senses. Pulling up his sleeve revealed a forearm of interwoven straw sinew, slick but solid. An identical forearm was mirrored beneath his opposite sleeve. The rest of his body appeared to be straw sinew beneath worn pants, flannel, and a brown knee-length coat, torn and full of holes. He peered down at his fingerless canvas gloves, vine-wrapped twig fingers sticking out. Flexing his fingers brought about a pained gasp from lack of use. What was he? Try as he might, nothing came to mind, save for the whispers of a half-forgotten dream. Death begets life, he whispered. Dumb scarecrow, dumb scarecrow, dumb scarecrow, a bird cawed from atop a wooden stake. The bird, a crow, black with silver-streaked feathers, scanned the horizon. Looking up, he realized a massive wheat field was spread out before him, while a sheer cliffside was at his back, waves roaring in the distance. He gripped the wooden stake behind him. Where was he? Focus, Scarecrow, the crow cawed repeatedly, landing squarely on top of his head as talons sank through the hat. The crow tilted its head down in front of his face. Sleek silver and black feathers trailed around large eyes, one black, one white, inspecting him. The crow's head twitched. Not a scarecrow, just a scared crow, not a scarecrow. I'm not scared, he protested, even though he couldn't remember a single thing. With a gulp, he murmured, I'm not scared. The crow pecked at his eye. Scarecrow flinched, grabbed his hat, and swatted at the bird as it circled him tauntingly. He stopped, eyeing the strangeness of the pointed hat, sewn together with straw. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it together sturdily. He stopped, eyeing the strangeness of the pointed hat, sewn together with straw. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact, despite the fragile appearance. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite its fragile appearance. Despite the fragile appearance. Despite the hat's fragile appearance. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite the hat's fragile appearance. Maybe. The brim felt warm, fingers still aching. He pulled a straw thread apart as it frayed, then rewove itself together seamlessly. Then rewove itself anew. Then rewove itself anew seamlessly. Maybe. The bird stopped before his face and cawed. Lose the hat, back to straw. Scarecrow thrust the hat back atop his head, nodding carefully. What was he? Up above, the sun sped across the sky, racing to the horizon in a matter of seconds. That was unnatural, right? He hopped to his feet and yelped in pain as the stiffness of his legs sent him tumbling into the dirt. The crow spiraled to the ground, landing on its back as it squawked and screeched. The scarecrow rubbed his head as he leaned onto his side, watching the crow roll about until he realized. Are you laughing? Scared and brainless, the crow cawed between laughs. I have a brain. At least, I hope I do, he whispered. The crow crawled atop his arm, talons sharp. Hey, what are you? Hay is for horses, horse brain, Crow cawed while fiercely pecking at his upper arm. What's a horse? Ouch! No, that tickles. Horse, Crow said between pecks. Brain, and more pecks. Scared, pecks. Crow! The crow caught in his face, clamping onto his wrist and pulled. Scarecrow's arm from the forearm down detached from his body as stuffing burst from the socket. I need that, Scarecrow cried as he rolled over to swipe for his detached arm. His fingers brushed against his stolen arm with a miss as the crow yanked it out of arm's reach, literally. He watched helplessly while his twig fingers in the fingerless glove attached to the straw forearm slid out of his coat sleeve and into the air. The crow flapped his wings faster, with the wrist clamped tightly between his beak. Somehow, he still managed to caw mockingly. Don't you have a heart? Caw! I need that too! Caw! Survive. He trailed off. The crow's shadow grew smaller, cast down by the rays of the ominously darkened sun. I don't think I need ominously there. Cast down by the rays of the darkened sun, which inched moment by moment beyond a mountain range in the distance. Scarecrow brushed dirt from his coat and pushed himself off the ground back onto his feet with much one-handed difficulty. He gritted his teeth at the pain coursing through his legs, but managed to get up. He gritted his teeth at the pain coursing through his legs from lack of use. I use that. He gritted his teeth at the pain coursing through his legs from inactivity. Not sure about that one. Because I already said lack of use with his arms earlier. But, well, let it slide for now. He gritted at his teeth at the pain coursing through his legs from inactivity. From being inactive. From being inactive. That's better. But managed to get up. Anyway. Anyway, standing upright, he balanced himself, gazing longingly at the empty coat sleeve where old Lefty should have been. The crow circled above and flew off toward a tree line, out beyond the wheat field. Shivering, he looked back at the long pole sticking out of the ground. How strange for a field to rest on the edge of a cliff. Waves roared in the distance, the sky growing cloudy. Perhaps a little adventure would jog his memory. Adventure. That word scratched at a memory. Adventure. Letting the word roll off his tongue, he sighed. The crow's caw echoed in the distance. I want my arm back, he shouted. A distant caw echoed out from above the cornfield as the crow flew farther away. Scarecrow clenched his fist midair. Before him lay a field of corn, wheat and grass twice as high. Let's see, I want my arm back, he shouted. A distant caw echoed. I feel like I can do that more tauntingly. The crow's caw echoed in the distance. I want my arm back, he shouted. A distant caw echoed out tauntingly. Let's go tauntingly. A distant caw echoed out tauntingly from above the cornfield. I think we know he's flying in the distance. I don't think we need that. A distant caw echoed tauntingly as the crow flew farther away. Yeah, I think that's fine. Distant caw echoed out tauntingly as the crow flew farther away. I want my arm back, he shouted. Caw! I wonder if I should do dialogue. This might hit harder. So, caw. Or we could go caw echoed tauntingly. All right. And I wonder, caw echoed out tauntingly. If we go that, I don't like that as much. I think the distant caw is better. I was like, I almost did dialogue again, but I think reported is going to be better for this part. A distant caw echoed out tauntingly as the crow flew farther away. Scarecrow clenched his fist midair. Before him lay a field of corn, wheat, and grass twice his height, which was surprising because he seemed tall. With cliffs at his back, a dense forest beyond, and the thieving crow as his compass, he took off at a jog. He ran awkwardly along the dirt, nearly falling before regaining his balance. His legs screamed painful at him from lack of use, but he pushed on, each step becoming easier. Worn black boots protected his straw feet, while the torn knee-length coat flapped behind him like a streamer in the wind. Rushing headlong through the wheat, grass, and corn made him feel alive. The smells of fresh vegetation greeted his senses, while his fingers glided along stalks of grain and fruits. Not fruits. We don't have that here. It's just going to be grain. While his fingers glided along stalks of grain. No, actually, let's go fruits. While his fingers glided along stalks of grain and fruits. Why didn't he remember anything? At least it was a nice summer. Gazing up at the sky, a bright flash streaked across it. In seconds... why didn't he remember anything? I don't think we need that. Gazing up at the sky, a bright flash streaked across it. We don't need gazing. A bright flash streaked across the sky. Why didn't he remember anything? A bright flash streaked across the sky. In seconds, sunlight withered as the sun hid beyond clouds. Hid beyond clouds. Giving way to a midnight blue moon and a night sky. I could do that. I can agree. In second, sunlight withered as the sun hid beyond clouds. Behind does sun better. A bright flash streaked across the sky. In seconds, sunlight withered as the sun hid behind clouds, giving way to a midnight blue moon and a night sky of fading stars. A rotation that passed in the blink of an eye. How was that possible? The shadowed moon glared down at him tauntingly. He tripped and slid face first into the ground. Scarecrow coughed up a cloud of dirt, waving his hand about to see what he had stumbled across. Tattered remnants of a scarecrow. Cotton and stuffing strewn among the wheat. Tattered remnants of a scarecrow, cotton and stuffing strewn among the wheat. A few feet away, torn pants and clothing lay spread about, intermingled with scraps of wool. Lip trembling, he looked away, but another bodiless scarecrow, head staring up at him, one eye ravaged, the other empty, hollow, and full of judgment. Lip trembling, he looked away, but another bodiless, lip trembling, he looked away. We don't need but. Lip trembling, he looked away. Another bodiless scarecrow head, another bodiless scarecrow head staring up at him. Now we can do stared. Another bodiless scarecrow head stared up at him, one eye ravaged, the other empty, hollow, and full of judgment. His head whipped around in all directions. Tatters, remnants, wool. Death begets life. Scarecrow. No distractions, he cried, stumbling to his feet awkwardly with one arm. Running away, he stumbled over another body, this one striped, denim, and a similar torn coat, also a scarecrow. To the side, a scarecrow's head was half shorn open with brown molded stuffing spewing out. He ran. Everywhere he looked, scarecrow arms, bodies, heads, and wool grew as permanent fixtures. This wasn't a field, it was a graveyard. Scarecrow burst out of the wheat field and slid to a halt, dust kicking up around him. He coughed, but it wasn't from the dirt. A heaviness grew deep in his chest. Something must have happened to those poor scarecrows to end like that. Was he the last one? He shook his head as the dust settled, revealing a dense forest. A muffled cawing rang out from above the tree line. Through the treetops, he spotted the crow. Now a welcome sight, against the nightmare of death behind him. His arm dangled loosely from the crow's beak. The blackbird nosedived into the forest. For the briefest moment, his arm looked to be waving at him before being swallowed by the dense canopy. Wow, I'm way happier with that chapter. That chapter's way happier. I mean, the chapter's not happy. The chapter's kind of a dark. I'm happier with the chapter. Oh, man. Hey, what's up, friends? I saw a couple of you guys hop into the stream. Atomic, my friend. Always great to see you in the chat. Hopefully the writing vibe's treating you well, my dude. Glad to see you in here. Hey, what's up, Calvin? I know I'm going late. So I don't usually go this late, but it's because we did Freaky Friday. I've been so crazy busy the past week. I kind of pushed off my writing sprints till later today, or my writing time. And I was like, you know what? I was kind of feeling a late night writing sesh. I'm like, it just kind of felt right. So I was like, I knew that would definitely be a good vibe. So I figured, and I mean, I'm kind of, for those of you who don't know, I'm about 65% of the way through the second draft, and I just got feedback recently on the first chapter because, like, I need to take the chapter through multiple revisions. Because I know first chapter's got to be good. And I was like, okay, well, it's like, this is basically the start of the third draft that I'm going into. And I was like, it doesn't hurt since I know the first chapter needs to be solid, especially as I'm going to be talking about Scarecrow more. Hey, what's up, Vamika? Welcome, my friends. Hopefully the writing vibe is treating you well. Hopefully you guys are able to get some good writing in, or you guys can just kick back. I know it's a little later than usual. You want to just kick back and listen to some Scarecrow. I figure, like, I'm just going to go through a few chapters. I think that's what I'm feeling the first few chapters. I mean, this is the beginning of the book, so tell me what you think. But granted, I do believe authors should read their drafts aloud. I'm kind of at that point where I feel good with where this first half of the book is at. Now I'm just needing to cut down on wordiness. Let's see. Atomic, I do like that recommendation. You're like the hat despite its fragile appearance. Let's see. Let's go back to the hat bit. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact. Let's see. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite the hats. So you think it should be it still, yeah. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite the hat's fragile appearance. You're right. I think it's better. Despite its fragile appearance. That is better. I agree with them. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite its fragile appearance. The brim felt warm. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that does sound better. Wow, Calvin, you're on your final chapter. Good for you, dude. Like that's incredible. Final chapter of your second book. Like heck yeah, my friend. That is what's up. You're motivating me to write more. You're making some solid progress, Calvin. I'm really happy. I was like, I got to get through Scarecrow. I want to get this book out. Oh, that's awesome. Calvin, I'm curious, how are you feeling about the second book? Are you really happy with how it's come out? Kept the hat intact. Let's see. Fingers still aching. I think I used the intact bit somewhere. So hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite. Okay, so Tommy, you're saying hundreds of tiny stitches kept the hat intact. Oh yeah, okay, because we have hat here, so I kind of don't like that repetition. When I look at this whole paragraph, I have the crow grabbed his hat. So we have had in the previous. He stopped, eyeing the strangeness of the pointed hat, sewn together with straw. Hundreds of tiny, and I think it's clear because we've already, it's been made clear at the beginning that it's the hat. I don't think we need to mention hat again. He stopped, eyeing the strangeness of the pointed hat, sewn together with straw. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact, despite its fragile appearance. Despite, you see, we don't need it. Despite hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact, despite its fragile appearance. Like, the thing is, it does work. Like, I wouldn't say it's a bad sentence. I just know stylistically there's a better option. But it's like, this is something I can continue to be nitpicky about. I'm going to send it to an editor anyways. So like, and editors will probably give suggestions for sentences. I think with this draft, I think what I need to do is I probably need to highlight sentences that I think could just be stylistically could have a better style. I think that's probably what I'll do. I don't want to go red because we don't need that. Yep. Okay. Well, I guess I'll do blue. And I was like, I'm like, you guys can't even see what I'm looking at. Yeah. So I think what I'm gonna do is if there's sentences that I know, like I really want to like improve the style, that way I'll come back to it. It's like when I did the poem at the beginning, it's like I know this part of the poem just needs to be. I think I want it to be a little different, but it's not something I'm gonna stop and worry about right now. All right. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Emma? Always good to see you, my friend. Hope everything is treating you well. Calvin, you said, I'm happy so far, but I know when I'm done, I'll need to start doing revisions. We're like the dreaded revision stage. We know that all too well, Calvin. Well, I mean, I know we've taken a couple of the chapters already through feedback, through some feedback loops. So I mean, it feels like it's heading in the right direction, Calvin, just based on what you've shared so far. And I mean, I'm sure the amount of revisions on the second book probably isn't going to be as substantial as it was in the first book, since you have a good portion of the world building and the characters already kind of set in place. So you just have a better sense for it. Let's see. Tonga said, yeah, you're right. No need to say hat again. I think I like kept it intact despite the fragile appearance. Let's see where. Let's go back to the hat bit. He stopped on the strange to the point. Has hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite its fragile appearance. Kept it intact despite the fragile appearance. Yeah, and I mean, like, he stopped eyeing the strangeness of the pointed hat sewn together with straw. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite the fragile appearance. Despite its fragile. Yeah, I mean, I think the is probably better here because of the preceding sentence. Hundreds of tiny stitches kept it intact despite the fragile appearance. The brim felt warm, but now the problem is now I have the repeated twice here, and I'm kind of mixed about that. Despite the fragile appearance. The brim felt warm, fingers still aching. He pulled a straw thread apart as it frayed, then wove itself anew seamlessly. I don't think I need the fingers. Like, let's keep the focus. The brim, fingers still aching. He pulled, maybe. Yeah, we're going to include this in the revision. They think about, he pulled a straw apart as it frayed, then wove itself anew seamlessly. Okay. Kevin, so like, some errors need some adding, so you're expecting a bit. Well, we know our drafts best, right? So the amount, however much work needs to be done. I get that. Okay, onwards and upwards to chapter 2. All right, let's see what we got for chapter 2. I think chapter 2 is probably more sound. I chapter 1 I kind of went back and forth on a number of times. I think developmentally I'm pretty good with chapter 1 overall. I think the pacing is good. I don't think it sounds quite so like there's a mix of tone. I think the tone is overall mysterious and clear. I kind of go back and forth on the beginning here on if I should include more. I had more in the last draft, but I'm like, maybe like this less is more will work. I'm gonna think about this bit right now, but I'll come back. Nice, Vamika. That's awesome. Like, you need to finish your outline for a rough draft challenge as you made up your mind that the project you're working on is going to be a series. Good for you. That's really, really cool. Working on series are a lot of fun. I mean, Scarecrow is book 1 of a series. So, I mean, I think we're all working on series here, actually. Everyone in the chat is all working on a book series. So I think we can all agree. All right, and let's do it. All right, so let's see what chapter 2 feels like. Yeah, like, we'll see if chapter 2 keeps up the tone. I was like, originally I was just gonna do chapter 1, but this is actually really helpful to me. This is really helpful. I mean, I appreciate your guys' feedback, but like me, like I just need to hear the things read out loud. I don't know if I'm gonna go the full draft, like in general, read out loud, at least on the live stream, but right now I'm feeling it. Cheers to some ghoul juice. This is Kaufman's idea of celebrating. Whenever anyone asks me, they're like, Jared, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, well, fun for me is building a business and writing. I'm such a nerd. I love it. Okay. All right. So chapter 2, Forest of Lost Bones. And if any of you guys have comments, just feel free to drop it in, and I'll check comments as I finish up the chapter. When I finish the chapter. Okay. Scarecrow trekked onward, approaching the tree line. He recognized ironwoods, oaks, and junipers, with leaves graying. The trees towered high above, casting far-flung shadows into the fields behind. He stopped 1 foot past the shadowed tree line and glanced over his shoulder at the field of his awakening. I don't think we need the shadows. The trees towered high above, casting far-flung shadows. He stopped 1 foot past the shadow tree line and glanced over his shoulder at the field of his awakening. He waved a final goodbye, vowing to find answers for the scarecrows before resuming his march beyond the first set of trees. Before resuming his march beyond the first set of trees, beyond the tree line. Beyond. Let's go the march, before resuming his march into the forest. Let's go that. Scarecrow trekked onward, approaching the tree line. He recognized ironwoods, oaks, and junipers with leaves graying. The trees towered high above, casting far-flung shadows. He stopped 1 foot past the shadowed tree line and glanced over his shoulder at the field of his awakening. It should be awakening. He waved a final goodbye, vowing to find answers for the scarecrows before resuming his march into the forest, before resuming his march into the unknown. More mysterious. Better. He studied the dense canopy as he walked. Fascinating how he remembered so little about himself, yet knew the names of such wildlife, yet knew the names of such foliage. Do trees count as foliage? Can a tree be considered foliage? Yes, a tree can be considered a source of foliage, as foliage is the collective term for the leaves of a plant or tree. Okay, so foliage is. He studied the dense canopy as he walked. Fascinating how he remembered so little about himself, yet knew the names of such wildlife. Yet knew the names of such. Let's see. What are other names for trees? Let's get a better name for trees here. Let's see. Give me 10. All right. Give me 10 recommendations or 10 alternate word choices for trees. Timber, woodland, canopy, use that. Saplings, groves, thicket, copse, arboreal giants. Arboreal giants. Fascinating how he remembered so little about himself, yet knew the names of such. Timber. Yet knew the names of such timber. Oh well. I'll think of something. Yeah, that's atomic. That's what I realized. I'm like, foliage would be the leaves, not the trees themselves, even though foliage would sound better. Nice, Emma. That's awesome. Like you plotted, you have a novel out to beta readers now, drafting Deadcaster Book 2. You're going to start a new story for Pro Writing Aid's novel November. Ooh, that's exciting. I'm not really participating in anything November because I'm taking a little breather. But we'll be focused on. I guess I'm dropping the anthology, so that'll be a big thing. And then we'll be doing the right now-a-thon in December, so that'll be the next big thing. My only goal has to be work on Scarecrow. Got and get distracted. All right, back into reading. He studied the dense canopy as he walked. Fascinating how he remembered so little about himself, yet knew the names of such. Wildlife is not right. We'll just say trees for now. Yet knew the names of such arbor monstrosities. Yet knew the names of such arbor. I wouldn't call them evil, of such arbor. Oh, I don't like that. He exhaled, trying to catch his breath. Running through that field had been more taxing than expected, and his legs still ached. A vain attempt to rub his forehead proved a gentle reminder of his missing arm. Scarecrow straightened himself up and pushed on. The dark shadows cast by the tree should have felt scary, but the thick scent of dirt and distant flowers. Let's go dirt and foliage. This would be a good one. The thick scent of dirt and foliage put him at ease. Vibrant streams of moonlight leaked down through the treetops, trickled. Vibrant streams of moonlight trickled down through the treetops, lighting his way through the knee-high grass. He stepped over bushes and shrubbery, making his own path, while swiping away at branches, making his own path. I don't think we need making. He stepped over bushes and shrubbery while swiping away at branches that threatened to knock him down. A clearing came into sight. He pushed through a dense circle of trees and squished. He pushed through a dense circle of trees. He pushed through a dense circle of trees and squished through an opening between two oaks. As he tumbled into the clearing, a soft breeze greeted him. All was silent. Unfortunately, the sky provided no sight of the crow. What if he couldn't catch up? Scarecrow swung the empty coat sleeve to and fro, frustrated, until more stuffing trailed out of the empty cuff and onto a small pile at his feet. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuffing. Straw, wood shavings, and fabric were evenly distributed within. He dropped it as his eyes followed the trail of stuffing bits, littering the path from where he had come. He dropped it. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuffing. Straw, wood shavings, and fabric were evenly distributed within. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuffing. Let's mix that up. Straw, wood shavings, and fabric within. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuffing. We could M-dash that. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuffing, straw, wood shavings, and fabric within. He dropped it as his eyes followed the trail of stuffing bits, littering the path from where he came. He dropped it as his eyes followed the trail of stuffing. He dropped it as his eyes followed He dropped it as fabric within. He dropped it as his eyes followed the trail of stuffing bits, littering the path from where he came. He rummaged around inside the coat, trying not to damage the frayed but resilient fabric. His fingers massaged the gaping hole left by the arm's absence. The smoothness of the straw contrasted with the coarseness of his inner stuffing. How much could he afford to lose? He did his best to pinch the edges of the straw together and then tie off the coat sleeve to act as a stopper. Turning his attention to the trees ahead, he jumped, nearly falling to the ground. Lying crumpled on the ground against a withered oak was a large, sturdy beast. "Hello?" Scarecrow greeted, wearily. No response. Was the beast asleep? He tiptoed forward carefully and quietly. Luckily for him, his straw frame allowed for a silent approach. His straw frame allowed him to approach silently. This is better. Straw frame allowed for a silent approach. He waved his hand in the air. Lucky for him, his straw frame allowed for a silent approach. He waved his hand in the air. But it didn't move. He waved his hand in the air, but it didn't move. When he waved his hand in the air, but the creature didn't move. When he was within breathing distance of the thing, of this beast, let's go, of this beast, he paused. The graying, sleek surface and jagged edges gave it a fearsome appearance. One could only imagine what the creature must look like standing fully erect. The two sets of tripedal legs bent and twisted in ways far beyond his understanding. But those eyes, 4 round circles, dark as the night sky, looked like they were staring at him. But were they really? Scarecrow reached his hand out to touch the beast. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots, permeating the surface before resting his palm upon. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots, permeating the surface. His fingers rested along one of the many rustic orange spots, permeating the surface. And I think we can just do this. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots, permeating the surface as he touched. As his palm touched. All right, Scarecrow reached his hand out to touch the beast. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots permeating the surface. As his palm touched, he gasped. He gasped and knew them to be the same beast, the creator. He gasped. All right, so he gasped, seeing a vision in his mind. He gasped. Do we want to reference the creators right now? All right, this means I need to go to my story Bible. All right, so I don't want to reference the creators quite yet. He gasped as a memory, as he gasped as an image, and knew this beast to be inactive. He gasped as an image of the beast appeared vibrantly in his mind. All right, let's see. So he gasped as an image of the beast, appeared vibrantly in his He gasped as an image of the beast flashed through his mind. He gasped as an image of the beast flashed through his mind. This one was this beast. This beast wasn't a beast. This beast, the beast that wasn't a beast. The beast that wasn't a beast was some type of transport. But he didn't understand. He gasped as an image of the beast flashed through his mind. The beast that wasn't a beast was some type of transport. But he didn't understand. The thing, it looked so real. It looked so real. Fearsome. It looked so real. Fearsome. It looked so real and fearsome. And also so empty. Biting his lip at the thought of the dead scarecrows. Biting his lip at the thought of the dead scarecrows. He stepped back. He stepped back and forced himself to take a calming breath. Okay, so a little bit of tension. So Scarecrow reached his hand out to touch the beast. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots permeating the surface as his palm touched its edges, as his palm rested along its edge, its along a jagged edge. Scarecrow reached his hand out to touch the beast. His fingers hovered along one of the many rustic orange spots permeating the surface as his palm rested along a jagged edge. He gasped as an image of the beast flashed through his mind. The beast that wasn't a beast was some type of transport, but he didn't understand. He didn't understand. It looked so real and fearsome, and also so empty, so empty. Biting his lip at the thought of the dead scarecrows, he stepped back and forced himself to take a calming breath. His gaze trailed along the beast's surface. Resting atop it was the strangest of sights, a bundle of white fossils piled together. A small oblong fossil with 2 inset crevices and a wide jagged hole where the mouth should have been. Something about it felt oddly reminiscent. He felt his own face, wondering if it had once been alive. We don't want to reference that yet. He felt his own face, wondering if it had once been alive. A cawing sound turned the scarecrow away from his examination. A cawing sound turned scarecrow. A cawing sound disrupted his examination. A cawing sound disrupted his examination. The crow stared down at him from atop a nearby tree. "Can I please have my hand back, good sir? Without it, I may not be long for this world." It's a little wordy. "Can I please have my hand back, good bird?" "Can I please have my hand back, good Mr. Bird?" This scarecrow. Mr. Bird. Yeah, we'll go with that. A calling sound disrupted his examination. The crow stared down at him from a nearby tree. "Can I please have my hand back, good Mr. Bird?" The scarecrow nodded at his trail of stuffing behind him. I fear I'm falling apart. There we go. That makes more sense. "Can I please have my hand back, good Mr. Bird? I fear I'm falling apart." The scarecrow nodded at his trail of stuffing behind them. The crow peered at him with the large black and white eyes. It hopped off the branch and flew down. Scarecrow smiled, extending his hand up to receive his arm. Extending his hand up to retrieve his arm. Yeah, we'll just do that. Extending his hand up to retrieve his arm. Just above his head, the crow spiraled in a circle. Just above his head, the crow spiraled, causing the arm to swing around and smack him in the face. Oh, it's still funny even when I go through it. Oh, man. Atomic, that cracks me up. "You must bring me a shrubbery." There were lots of great stories for free. Yeah, ML, the Freaky Friday stories were great. The Freaky Friday stories were incredible. Anybody who missed out on Freaky Friday, they might be linked down below this video. I forgot if they're linked, but they're all on the front page of the YouTube channel. Definitely worth checking out for anyone who missed out on the Freaky Friday stories. He bent down to finger the thick, warm stuff. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I could totally see that making people laugh, as with an undertone, with an unintentional undertone. It's kind of funny. Let's see. The crow peered at him with the large black and white eyes. It hopped off the branch and flew down. Scarecrow smiled, extending his hand up to retrieve his arm. Just above his head, the crow spiraled, causing the arm to swing around and smack him in the face. "Hey, that's not very nice," Scarecrow shouted, rubbing his cheek. Repeated muffled cawing sounds echoed out in response. "Are you laughing at me? Are you laughing again?" Scarecrow clenched his fist and reached for the closest rock he could find before chucking it at the bird. The crow spun about, using his arm. The crow spun about, using his arm to deflect the rock and rebound it. The crow spun about, using his arm to deflect the rock, rebounding it back at Scarecrow. The crow spun about, using his arm. The crow spun about, using his arm to deflect the rock, rebounding it back at Scarecrow. Rebounding it back at him. The crow spun about, using his arm to deflect the rock, rebounding it back at him. The rock hit him in the forehead. The rock hit his forehead. The rock hit his forehead. The rock hit his forehead, sent him. Struck. Yeah, the rock struck. The rock struck his forehead and sent him stumbling to the ground. "You think that's going to stop me?" Truth be told, he didn't know what could stop him. Short of losing all of his stuffing, but it sounded like a good thing to say. The crow let out another series of muffled caws before doubling back and darting into the trees past the silent beast. Past the silent beast that wasn't a beast. Scarecrow hopped up and followed in pursuit. He wedged himself between the mighty oaks and burst through. His long, lanky legs let him keep pace. His long, lanky straw legs. We already know they're straw. His long, lanky legs let him keep pace with his feathery foe. "Let's work something out!" Scarecrow screamed, but the crow kept on flying. The crow kept on flying. The crow kept flying. "Let's work something out!" Scarecrow screamed, but the crow kept flying. The crow kept on. A lone howl was heard somewhere off in the distance. Maybe he shouldn't be so loud. Who knows what could be out there? Having one hand might be a detriment should he encounter another creature. So I did a quote. I'm asking if this is necessary. I don't think it is. "Let's work something out," Scarecrow screamed, but the crow kept on. A lone howl was heard somewhere off in the distance. A lone howl echoed off in the distance. A lone howl echoed out in the distance. Maybe he shouldn't be so loud. Who knows what could be out there? He didn't let his eyes off the crow as it threaded between trees. Scarecrow stumbled over tree trunks and vines, but it didn't stop him from pursuing. He crashed through a cluster of thorny bushes, causing a tear in his empty coat sleeve. A soft rushing sound bounced off the trees, but so focused on the crow, he burst out of the bushes to the edge of an overlook. Flailing with his one arm on yet another drop, Scarecrow teetered back and forth. He stepped back, maintaining his balance with a sigh of relief. Not too far below, the swishing and swirling of watery currents rose up from a lake whose depths shimmered with an emerald glaze. An emerald glaze. He marveled at the large body of water. I don't think we need this. Well, it appeared only about half the size. Wondered. Because I'm basically calling out to the strangeness of this lake. I don't think we need to call back to this. I think we can just move the momentum along. He shivered. Flailing with his one arm on yet another drop, Scarecrow teetered back and forth. He stepped back, maintaining his balance with a sigh of relief. Not too far below, the swishing and swirling of watery currents rose up from a lake whose depths shimmered with an emerald glaze. But no sign of the bird, though. But no sign of the bird. But no sign of the bird. He turned around to go to make his way around the lake. He turned around to make his way. He turned around so he could circle the lake, but was greeted with the oval black and white eyes and a rush of feathers. I don't like that. I don't like that. Let's see. What if we just... I'm like, does he need... But no sign of the bird. He turned around, but was greeted with the oval black and white eyes. Let's go with a rush of feathers. He turned around, but was greeted with a rush of feathers as the crow headbutted him in the chest. Scarecrow gasped for air as he stumbled back. Flailing with his one arm on yet another drop, Scarecrow teetered back and forth. He stepped back, maintaining his balance with a sigh of relief. Not too far below, the swishing and swirling of watery currents rose up from a lake whose depths shimmered with an emerald glaze. But no sign of the bird. He turned around, but was greeted with a rush of feathers as the crow headbutted him in the chest. Scarecrow grasped for air as he stumbled back. Mockingly, the bird swung his captive arm about. As Scarecrow brushed against his own fingertips before falling back. A rush of air and then a splash. He thrashed about frantically. "Help!" he sputtered as his head bobbed just above the surface before plunging down. He fumbled blindly, somersaulting against the current. The watery world spun around him. He held his breath while circling violently. Was this it? Stuffing trailed out in the dark green water behind him. His empty coat sleeve flapped violently, catching on a boulder and tethering him momentarily. Scarecrow swayed back and forth, focusing on his sleeve. Scarecrow rippled back and forth, focusing Scarecrow rippled back and forth as he tried to grab something, anything. Running out of breath. As he breathed deeper. Air bubbles rose as he breathed deeper. No sense of the world. Spinning. Breath. No sense of the world. Scarecrow rippled back and forth as he tried to grab something, anything. Running out of breath. No sense of the world. Spinning. Sleeve about to tear. Stuffing seeping out. He lunged for the boulder, but the motion dislodged his sleeve. Okay, so we're going to do a sentence. Interesting. So Stuffing trailed out in the dark green water behind him. His empty coat sleeve flapped violently, catching on a boulder and tethering him momentarily. Scarecrow rippled back and forth as he tried to grab something, anything. Running out of breath. No sense of the world. Spinning. Sleeve about to tear. Stuffing seeping out. He lunged for the boulder, but the motion dislodged his sleeve, sending him spiraling deeper. He clamped his hand over his empty arm socket. To stem the dispersal of stuffing. Circling, spinning, dizziness. Circling, spinning, dizziness. Was this dying? Scarecrow gasped for air. Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. He gasped. Scarecrow gasped for air. Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. He inhaled, expecting to lose consciousness, but instead took a deep breath. Breathed. But instead, his breathing resumed. He inhaled, expecting to lose. Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. Expecting to lose consciousness, he inhaled for air. Expecting to lose consciousness, he inhaled. He inhaled. He gasped for air. Let's do it like this. Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. Expecting to lose consciousness, he gasped for air. Water coursed through him as he breathed in and out. Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. Expecting to lose consciousness, he gasped for air. His breathing resumed normally. Breathing in water. His breathing resumed normally, as if the water was like air. As if the water were air. He was fine. All right. He circled about. Each breath, he circled about. He spun about. He spun about as each breath brought as bubbles. He spun about as Hmm. He might not. Okay, I know what he's going to do. He might not be choking, but bits of stuffing continued to seep out of the tear in his empty coat sleeve. At the rate of his stuffing loss, at this rate, he might not escape the lake after all. At this rate, he might not escape this body of water. After all, he all right, he tumbled in circles again and again until he spotted a small oval object sticking out of a crater in the at the bottom of the lake. At the bottom of the lake. At the bottom. He stopped floundering and allowed himself to be carried by the current, which emanated from the object, which originated from the object. He tumbled in circles again and again until he spotted a small oval object sticking out of a crater at the bottom of the lake. He stopped floundering and allowed himself to be carried by the current, which that originated from the object. With one, all right, this needs to be fixed. With one hand, Scarecrow. With one arm, Scarecrow reached for the object. His fingers scraping along its side. With one arm, Scarecrow reached for the object, his fingers scraping along its side. An inner glow illuminated a shadow moving from within. A loud noise shockwaved from it. Shockwaved. A loud screech. A loud screech shockwaved. Shockwaved from it, forcing him to cover his one ear. Forcing him to cover one of his ears. He lay flat, face inches from the object, as Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right, Atomic. That's better. All right. So let's see. Let's go. He gripped because okay. So I know like when I did his movements originally, I think I envisioned him reaching it differently, but it just wasn't. I don't think it was working. He gripped the object. He gripped the object and held on as violent as sucking, swirling, and swishing sounds. He gripped the object and held on as sucking, swirling, and swishing sounds. He gripped the object and held on as the water coursed violently around him. All right. Suddenly air graced the back of his head, his back. All right. Suddenly fresh air graced the back, graced his head, his body, suddenly fresh air graced his head and his body until the water had completely evaporated into the dirt, into the ground, into the earth. had evaporated entirely into the earth. All right, so like I changed the motion. I need to see if that actually like motion works. I was all right about how that was originally. So okay, so he falls in the lake. Okay. He turned around, but was greeted with a rush of feathers as the crow headbutted him in the chest. Scarecrow grasped for air as he stumbled back. Mockingly, the bird swung his captive arm about as Scarecrow brushed against his own fingertips before falling back. A rush of air and then a splash. He thrashed about frantically. "Help!" he sputtered as his head bobbed just above the surface before plunging down. He fumbled blindly, somersaulting against the current. The watery world spun around him. He held his breath while circling tumultuously. Was this it? Stuffing trailed out in the dark green water behind him. His empty coat sleeve flapped. His empty coat sleeve flapped. His empty coat sleeve flapped, catching on a boulder and tethering him momentarily. Scarecrow rippled back and forth as he tried to grab something, anything. Running out of breath, no sense of the world. Running out of breath, spinning, sleeve about to tear, stuffing seeping out. He lunged, sleeve about to tear, and stuffing seeping out. He lunged for the boulder, but the motion dislodged his sleeve, sending him spiraling deeper. He clamped his hand over his empty arm socket to stem the dispersal of stuffing, circling, spinning, dizziness. Was this dying? Water filled his throat as he choked and coughed. Expecting to lose consciousness, he gasped for air. He gasped. Expecting to lose consciousness, he gasped, inhaling water. He gasped, inhaling water. But somehow, his breathing resumed normally, as if the water were air to him, as if the water were air. He was fine. He might not be choking, but bits of stuffing continued to seep out of the tear in his empty coat sleeve. At this rate, he might not escape this body of water after all. He tumbled in circles again and again until he spotted a small oval object sticking out of a crater at the bottom of the lake. He stopped floundering and allowed himself to be carried by the current that originated from the object. That allowed himself to be carried by the current flowing from the object. With one arm, Scarecrow reached for it. His fingers scraping along the side. An inner glow illuminated a shadow moving from within. An inner glow illuminated a shadowed silhouette moving from within. A loud screech emanated from it. A loud screech emanated from it, forcing him to cover one of his ears. He gripped. A loud screech emanated from it, forcing him to cover one of his ears. The water. Okay, I know. The water became violent. As the current intensified. There we go. The water became violent as the current intensified. Scarecrow lunged for the object, grasping it. Scarecrow lunged for the object, grasping it with his only hand. He gripped the object. He gripped it. He held on as the water coursed around him. Suddenly, fresh air graced his head and his body until the water had evaporated entirely into the earth. Scarecrow coughed up bouts of water, now lying in an empty lake bed. An empty lake bed. Another round of coughing followed before soft, fresh air cooled down his throat. He lay face first on the ground, breathing in deeply, regaining his bearings. At last recovered. The object appeared to be an egg with black diagonal etchings inlaid against a cream-colored exterior. He tapped the side, but it remained motionless and silent. Scarecrow pushed himself to his feet and scanned the empty lake bed. And scanned his surroundings. What a strange lake, he mused. The egg with the black etchings and the lake that was not a lake. What did he know? He didn't remember anything. What did he know? He didn't remember anything. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by, friends. He walked to what did he know? He didn't remember anything. He walked towards the closest edge of the lake, but stopped. Glancing over his shoulder brought the egg back into sight. A cawing sound echoed in the distance. He felt his right shoulder, which was now much emptier than before. All right. He walked towards the closest edge of the lake, but stopped. He walked towards the lake's edge. Yep. The lake's edge, but stopped. Glancing over his shoulder, he sighed. A cawing sound echoed in the distance. He felt his right shoulder, which was now much emptier than before. If he pressed enough, his shoulder sagged, but the coat kept it erect, even if it was soaked. He looked back at the egg. Couldn't hurt. Scarecrow returned to scoop up the egg. Surprised at its weightlessness and feeling a cool tingling sensation run up his arm. He scanned his coat, found an inner waist pocket and deposited the egg. The crow circled far above the lake with muffled caws. The wrist of his poor old left hand still clasped between its beak. What manner of bird would test him so? Nice try, Crow. Even water couldn't stop me. Scarecrow nodded down at a soaking straw body. At a soaking straw body, soaked coat, and crumpled shoulder. A muffled caw in response, followed by a tossing of the arm into the air. The crow caught it with its talons and proceeded to caw, ha, ah, he repeated. Are you laughing again? Scarecrow closed his fist, charging towards the closest lake edge to pull himself out. He even tried to swipe at the crow, who seemed so close, but nearly lost his balance. The crow swooped down to smack him with his arm again. But this time, Scarecrow was prepared, and he dodged it with ease. He grinned, only to realize he had lost his footing and tumbled back to the bottom of the lake bed. The crow continued with his awkward bird-like laugh before flying back into the forest and out of sight. Scarecrow wrapped his lanky straw arm around the closest rock and pulled himself back to his feet. Scarecrow grabbed the closest rock and pulled himself back to his feet. There was no choice but to follow. So he climbed out of the lake bed. Feet. He quickly climbed out of the lake bed. And back onto the ground level. With the crow's tail feather in sight, he pushed through the underbrush of the tree line. Stumbling upon a worn dirt path, he shrugged, glad to have some route as he picked up the pace, his dangling, lifeless, upside-down arm waving at him mockingly in the distance. While running, Scarecrow realized he only had one problem, or more like one of many problems. His soaked straw body weighed him down tremendously. He groaned and slowed his pace to wring out parts of his body one at a time. How would he ever catch up to the crow at this rate? A chuckle escaped his lips. A chuckle escaped him. What a strange creature. He wrung out his opposite shoulder as water drops splashed to the ground. As water splashed to the ground. What a strange world. He wrung out his other leg, while the chuckle evolved to laughter. What a peculiar thing to be a scarecrow. Interesting. So the pacing of that chapter is really interesting. We're running Scarecrow, Steel Man, one bar, more like 1 a minute. Interesting. So, I mean, I think the overall things that happen in this chapter are fine. I'm still a little iffy about the lake. I think that lake bit can be cleaned up just a little bit, but it's fine. I really like the first half. Yeah, and I mean the chapter is not super long, so I think that's a good bit. So awesome. I'm feeling pretty good about that though. I feel like I was able to get a decent amount accomplished with going through those 2 chapters. So I think I'm gonna call it a night. But I feel like I was able to get a little bit of writing, wording done. Hopefully you're able to get some work done as well. I think originally I was gonna like do a normal like music free write, but I kind of just got into the reading it out loud and kind of hearing things that needed to be like tweaked and fine tuned. So all progress is good progress, my friends. But that brings us to the end of the stream. I'll be back tomorrow at some point for a writing update stream, and we'll talk about what's on the horizon. Next weekend is the Scarecrow cover reveal, so that will be super exciting. And yeah, that's all that I got. If you missed out on Freaky Friday this weekend, go check it out. We had some great stories, some laughs, some scares, and everything in between. So definitely worth watching. All of the replays are available with the time codes and everything in between. But that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write.
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that